It's a great honor and a pleasure to welcome James Seaborn and Drake Moore. Together, they form the duo Mesmer's Ghosts, and they do have their respective solo work. James under the name James Ghost, and Drake under the name 40 Octaves Below. They were among the first guests of this podcast, and I'm very glad to have them on this show once again and together for the first time. Say hi, Drake and James, and I hope you're doing well.
Hey, thanks for having us, Chung.
Yeah, Chung, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good seeing you too. We're managing 3 time zones at this moment. I'm in Hanoi, James is in Peterborough, and Drake is somewhere in West Canada.
I'm in the forest.
So I wish to begin by asking you about, of course, the new album is titled Sinister. It was released in 2021, and I presume it was recorded and composed during COVID. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So as I've said, you live pretty far apart from each other, and I'm assuming that during that time you haven't seen each other, at least in person. So tell us about the process of working together on that album remotely.
Well, we both quite often I'll create a bunch of stuff, send it to Drake, get his feel on it, and then we just kind of do a little bit of back and forth with us both contributing, and it just slowly evolves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to see James. We made a trip back to Ontario.
Oh, okay.
It was earlier this year. So yeah, we were in Ontario when COVID hit, and I think James and I started collaborating just before COVID hit, in fact, or it was around that time. I know I had a bunch of shows lined up that were canceled, and it was just kind of flooring that. What? Everything's closing? What do you mean? It was like I didn't believe it at first. It was just too much. Beyond my realm of experience. That anyway, James, he's a master of creating sounds that are so unique that you will not find anywhere. He's a true experimenter.
Oh yeah.
And what he'll do is he'll send me these little bits and pieces as he creates them, these unique sounds and compositions. And I'll pick from that something that really resonates with me that I want to build upon. And really what James puts forward essentially sets the tone for the composition. Most of our songs start with something that James has introduced, and then I sort of carry it away from there. And and James provides all the vocals, kind of mix that in as well. So with 40 Octaves Below, I do all the vocals. So this is kind of nice on this project for me to sit back and let someone else do that. And I can just focus on, mixing and composition. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Drake's a true magic man with the sounds too. So
Thanks, James.
So you guys have worked together, I'm assuming, for a long time. So I wonder, how did you guys meet for the first time?
Do you want me to field this?
Yeah, you go ahead, James.
Well, Drake had been around for a little while. We hadn't met, but someone that we both knew stopped me one day because Drake wanted to do some shows, and told me about Drake and the kind of music he makes. And I'm going, okay, well, I got to meet this person. That's my kind of thing. And she said you wanted to do some shows. So I think I introduced you to Jin. I think that's what
it was initially Jin. Yeah, Dreams of Beans.
Yeah. And we just, two weirdo minds getting together, it has to lead to creation, right? So
James is pretty much he's one of the main pulse lines in that community. And I was new at that time. I think that was 2019-ish. Coming back to Ontario. I grew up in Ontario, been away on the West Coast for a while. Family came back. And I was really just coming into composition again. and I had this collection of songs that I wanted to perform, and it was like, who in this community do I need to tap into in order to find out, who's who and what's what. And James was the guy that I was put in touch with, and yeah, it was good.
Right.
And so yeah, early on in our discussions, James was like, "Hey man, you want to do something together?" I'm like,
Of course.
yeah, man, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give this a go. And yeah, Mesmer's Ghost came out of that.
Mhm.
And the madness continues.
Yeah. I know that your last album was called Existential, released in 2020. And I wonder if you guys did anything new or better, improve upon this one, Sinister. Yeah. What did you improve upon or try, experiment in this new album compared to the previous one?
Well, I was, from my perspective, Existential came out and it was kind of, it was the first go. I feel like it was really raw, and it's, there are a lot of tracks on there that are among my favorites that we've done. Between Existential and Sinister, myself personally, I'm always taking new classes, studying under producers online who I follow and have respect for. So it's not like, it's an ever evolving process, this learning, and there's always more to learn. And the more you do it, the more you practice it, the more refined it becomes, the better it sounds. And that's really it. I mean, I fully expect that early next year, we're going to begin working on our third.
All
and
right.
It's going to be even, 2-3 steps above Sinister.
Yeah, and I keep picking up new strange, awesome gear to add more delicious flavors to what we create. So yeah, can't help but evolve and get better. So
yeah, James, we've met many times, and I've talked to you about the gear stuff. And I remember you told me about certain gears that only that are unique in that they are the ones who can make this sound, and those who are gearheads like you can pick it up. So yeah, tell us more about that.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of some standard gear. I think the one that's kind of unique is Dave Smith Technologies Tetra 4, which is an MP3 synth box that I can, or MIDI synth box and controller that I can hook any keyboard into if I want to, and yeah, get a lot of really powerful sounds out of that one. And that's one that being someone who works in the used instrument business, it's not one I see very often. So that'd be one of the fun toys. And like a good old fashioned chord K oscillator, got to have a good drone in there. So and many other toys. I don't tend to inventory my gear that way, but no.
Yeah. So what's the
and
album?
Fun odd.
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, and some fun odd, weird vintage pieces like a Casio SK1. Makes really bad noises. It's great.
Yeah. So what I was asking was the album made entirely with electronic instruments, or were there non-electronic instruments involved in the making of it?
I believe I did. There is some guitar tracks that I had sent Drake that were in at least one of the tracks. Yeah, most of it synth, possibly drum machine. Like on my end, I don't always remember. I'm always creating, so.
Yeah, on my side, it's primarily Electron gear. I've got the Analog Rhythm Mark II, Analog 4 Mark II, and the Octatrack Mark II. That's kind of my main workstation for creating. Yeah, I've evolved away from software. I spent years and years and years trying to compose in software and was just lost in a sea of options. And I really enjoy how hardware limits me into a box where, this is what I have to work with. And yeah, it's just allowed me to actually, create and finish compositions, like moving to hardware. It's been huge. Yeah.
I agree. Hardware makes a big difference. I've tried to wrap my mind around the software composition, and other than using DJ software on occasion to alter the mix a little bit, I find it too mind-boggling. So I'll stick with hardware.
Yeah. So, James, you told me that you had a concert over at the Red Dog, right? We live in Peterborough, so we know what the Red Dog is. So tell us about that. How did it go?
Oh, well, DJ Live Evo is doing DJ sets here now, and from Live Evo Productions. Drake introduced me to him, and reintroduced me. Turns out we knew each other way back. He's getting me into doing a little bit of DJing to, I like to do, when I go to it, I like to bring CanCon, Canadian content. So Drake and I have a site that I tap into, the Canadian Industrial Music Alliance, and reach out to some of those artists. And if they want something new heard, it's an option, right? An opportunity. So, and then Sean works with a lot of, Live Evo works with a lot of different artists. And so he brings a lot of their stuff and a lot of 40 octaves below, etc. And, it'll be a thumping good time.
Nice. Yeah. So Drake, any recent live gigs you want to share with us?
Just recently, last Friday, participated in the Empire Beat Crunch Fest 3. Replay is available through Facebook, and I'll be posting a replay on YouTube probably within the next week or so. And that had a sneak peek of a number of tracks that are coming up, either later this year or early next year. 40 Octaves Below Metaversus release. And I've been releasing singles throughout this year, which is kind of a different process and a bit of an experiment to see if I can gain more traction by slowly dripping out the content of an album, through singles and remixes by other, friends and great artists that I've come into contact with. Feel very fortunate that a lot of the people that both of us, James and I, have been able to connect with over the years just doing this. It's really, really amazing.
Nice.
So I lost my train of thought. What was I doing? Right. Empire Beat. Previous to that, it was Gods for Sanctuaries, which is on YouTube right now. But yeah, in terms of actual live shows, no, I'm in the forest. So I can live stream from the forest. Thanks to Elon, Uncle Elon, and Starlink.
Awesome.
So, tell us about the music that you grew up with. Yeah.
Who? Which one of us?
Pick a head, John.
Well, of course, Drake, you can go ahead, and James, of course, you can follow, I guess.
Awesome.
Okay. Man, I've listened to a lot of things over the years. Up until about the age of 20, I led a pretty sheltered life, and it was majority of it heavy music, metal, and discovering industrial sometime along the way in my teenage years. But I was really sheltered until I took off to the West Coast and went on my own. And the internet came along, and dating us here. Internet came along when I was in college, and it was just, before that, it's almost, it must be hard for someone who's a millennial or younger to imagine a time before the internet where, if you didn't hear it on Much Music or MTV, or a friend didn't say, hey man, you got to check out this band, we were so limited to just what was coming through those few channels as in terms of exposure. So anyway, a lot of heavy music, a lot of not heavy music. I like to listen to good classical. Any music really that is good. Genre doesn't really come into play. So lots of influences. pretty much influenced by everything that I've ever come into contact with, as you know, I believe we all are.
Mm-hmm.
James.
James.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess my oldest brother probably got me into recorded music the most. He's a heavy audiophile, 5 years older than me, and introduced me to stuff like Pink Floyd, King Crimson, Fripp and Eno, and so there's some early synth influence. And then kind of found a love for old funk. From there, got into new wave and dark wave, cold wave, metal, thrash, and industrial, and they just all seem to start to bleed into each other. Because like Drake said back then, if it wasn't, and this stuff wasn't on Much Music or video hits or whatever, Toronto rocks, yay. I don't know if you'd know of that video show that used to be on, but for a lot of us, that was a source. But it was tape trading, and you go to a buddy's place and they had a mixtape that somebody else made for them, and you got to hear this track, and like Drake was saying, and that's why so many scenes existed. You had to have somewhere to turn to, and we all needed somewhere to turn to. So, from that came many different scenes.
Wow. Yeah. It's quite amazing because I know that I grew up with the internet, so I've never really lived a life where the internet never really existed. So I'd like to tell us more about that pre-internet era, and also known as the prehistory. So, and where
remember the old modems, Drake, that were so loud you had to like put a pillow over it so you didn't wake up your neighbors.
300 baud dial-up.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember getting like a 2400 baud modem and was like, wow, this thing is fast. Like you
3 hours later.
how slow. Yeah. Unbelievable. But I mean, before all of this, this speed came along, we had patience. We would sit and we would wait for these things to load. You would be downloading an image on your computer, and as it came through the phone, the telephone line, it would slowly paint from top to bottom, and you would sit there and you would watch it and you would be thrilled. You wouldn't be going, God damn it, this thing is slow. Like everything was new and exciting. And I mean, you wanted to hang out with somebody, you picked up the landline, and you dialed the number. Though they're not home, I'll go over to their house.
Exactly.
Mom, I'll be home at 6. And if you weren't home at 6, there was no cell phone to call the kid on. It was just like the kid showed up, and it was a different time, and it was I think in a lot of ways a better time.
Freer.
It was simpler
In terms of our minds, and all kinds of other levels.
So tell us about the respective music scenes that you guys are a part of.
Oh, well, locally, I guess I'm part of the noise crowd. A lot of drone stuff, and I played drone day more often than anything. What I do on my own is, experimental. There's far too many genres out there to figure out which one fits what. So just a lot of experimental ambient stuff. Not really coming up with too many lyrics these days myself. So not a lot with vocals on it, but and done some weirdo psychedelic stuff, but those days seem to be past. So
Drake.
I mean, in terms of scenes, genres are kind of a funny thing. I don't tend to, I don't like to pigeonhole or, box what I do or what James and I do into a box. I mean, there's so many different influences. I don't think you could point to something that we're doing and go, it's this. Although some people try to, and I'm sure you could probably throw it in one box or another. But I mean, in terms of scenes, yeah, like there's a lot going on in the industrial scene. I was talking to a guy recently, and he was like, "Yeah, that's old guy music now." I was like, "What the fuck?"
We're not that old yet.
He's totally right. He's totally right. Like it's like when I was a kid, my dad was listening to Q107 Toronto and classic rock, and that was a sound that I heard, tons growing up. Thank God my parents didn't listen to country, nothing country, but
Same
it was
here.
real country back then anyway. But that I'm my dad's age now. And my music is like this 90s music that, in my mind, it is the best music that ever came, in my lifetime. And just as my father would say, when I was a kid, that his classic rock was the best music, and I think I'm right and he's wrong, but it's perspective, right? I mean, yeah, I mean, there was a lot of electronic elements coming out of that classic era, and I just think that electronic music has, I don't know, it's done a lot, and there's something about the sound, particularly analog, that I'm just in love with, and I love the fact that this technology allows us to create. You have a little bit of money, you go out and buy a crap piece of gear, you can create music. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to spend tons of money. It's so accessible to people, and just, software-based music creation, so accessible. And I think as human beings being creative, it's so important that we have outlets to express ourselves creatively. So I think in that sense, I'm going to, almost stick my foot in my mouth and go back and say, technology is a good thing, but it's a double-edged sword,
Oh, yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, technology provided us with this meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
But and if you think about how we were talking about before internet, how we would have had to have done this, what Drake and I are doing now, prior to the internet, we would have had to go book studio time, that or have, oodles of cash for all the gear to record a good studio quality, send it by snail mail or by courier to each other, play with it, and could take years.
I remember reading Faith No More used to do that, apparently. I don't know if it was post real thing, maybe it was Angel Dust, but they were living in different parts of the country, and they would take their bit, write it, send it off to the next guy, he'd add his bit, send it off. Yeah.
Wow.
And
some artists were doing that.
It's not now it's a very easy process. It's freeing again, because you can create so much, and like Drake was saying about earlier about being able to take pieces and build from that, that was so much harder to do back then. You're actually physically cutting tape and taping it together, and now, because it's so much more accessible and a lot more of the gear, there's a lot more of the classic sounds at affordable levels. Like try buying a TR-808, when you can buy a TR-8 and get pretty much the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So.
Right. So I wonder if it is your belief that when you reach a certain age, you stop discovering new music, unless, of course, maybe you are a musician yourself, or just an average music listener. So tell us about that perspective of, discovering music at an age of yours, I guess.
Go ahead, Drake.
Well, at the age of 78, I have to say that I'm still seeking out new music. I will always seek out new music. It's really, for me, these days I'm so busy, I'm actually not actively seeking out new music. When I have a spare moment, I'm writing music. That's the honest truth. And if I have a bit of time, and I set aside a little bit of time every week where I go onto social media and I try to stay the hell off of it,
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's to do a little bit of promotion for the music that we're creating. And that is the extent of social media for me. Aside from maybe a tiny bit of networking, but I've got better things to do. I've got things to create, and really, music doesn't come my way unless somebody goes, Drake, you got to check this out. You just have to check this out. Like recently, Sean Beasley, Live Eagle Productions, he says you got to check out ESA, Electronic Sound Addiction. Jamie Blacker, his project, and it just blew me away. It was like, oh my God, and if you haven't checked that out, check that out. The guy's creating some phenomenal stuff. Really, 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 really creative. Again, in the electronic kind of industrial kind of vein, but it seems to me he's probably got some classical music training, because he's incorporating all kinds of other elements in there. It's just like, whoa, dude, how did you pull that off? Like, it's so cool. Yeah. Anyway, but so unless it's pointed out to me, I'm not actively seeking out new music, although I'm open to it.
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess I'd kind of be on the same, like I catch a lot of, well, not so much lately, but I try to catch a lot of DJ sets from some of the different DJs that we know that have played our music, etc.
Mhm.
And quite often on there, I'll encounter something new that I just lose my mind over. So yeah, totally open to it. Do I go seeking it? I guess through those DJ sets, I do. I would kind of have to agree with Drake when, other things aren't distracting me, music's there. So, as long as I can make sounds, and I'm always open to the new crazy sounds I'm going to create. So I kind of don't need other distractions, I guess, with the other new music. So,
All right. Yeah. So tell us about one or more musicians whose sounds are very different, like perhaps the polar opposite of what you guys are doing, but who have influenced your sound over the years.
oh, trick questions, huh?
You're all
I would
about
say, right off the top of my head, Iggy Pop and
Oh.
Tom Waits.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd go to
Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'd go to Leonard Cohen myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time in my life where I was quite obsessed with Mike Patton and his multitude of side projects, and all of the really, really weird experimental stuff he was doing with Fantomas, Mr. Bungle, and his solo work sounds for oh shit, I don't even remember the name of it.
Google it.
Yeah, but I mean, Mike Patton was huge influence on me, and that's nowhere near close to the type of music that we're creating. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So James, tell us about Leonard Cohen.
What's there to say? He's a legend. I guess he resonated a lot with me because I used to write poetry, etc., and him being a Canadian poet that had a bit of a darker leaning, and yeah, I just resonated with his darker vocals, the voice, the type of guitar that he played. Like not the particular instrument, but his guitar stylings. And I was also into bands like Tangerine Dream and Dead Can Dance, and a lot of ambient stuff that wouldn't necessarily sound like it would be influencing what what we're creating now, but I hear it in places. So
Right. Yeah. So tell us about your recent respective solo works. Of course, I've mentioned the James Goes as well as the 40 Octaves Below project. So what have you guys been doing lately with those monikers?
well, Drake's been pumping out some hot singles lately that people should be checking out.
Yeah, it's kind of actually through a peer who has been had a very successful career, that try releasing singles, at least 3 or 4 singles in advance of your main album release. And with each of those singles, include a video. So I've been doing that all year long. And it's been a lot of work, but it's been rewarding and fun. I'm just like, holy crap. We're gonna now turn over and start doing, something similar with Mesmer's Ghost. So it's nonstop, and it's been a ride. Yeah.
I've been procrastinating getting in front of a green screen, but Live Evil's offered to help me out, so we'll get it together.
Yeah. So how do you balance the, I guess, life as a musician versus, I guess, life as a human person living, in the world, I guess?
You don't. It's all wonderful chaos.
Mhm.
Yeah. Why try to balance it? Just live it, enjoy it. I don't know, if things were too controlled and too structured, I don't think I'd be able to come up with half of the crazy sounds that I do. So yeah, I don't really try to balance it, I don't think. But I work with gear all day, so I don't really get away from it, sort of thing. Like while I'm at work, showing someone a piece of gear, I might get an idea of, oh yeah, when I get home tonight, I'm gonna pull this thing out and make these sounds. So I guess for me it's a little bit easier because it's on all parts of my life.
I see. Well, Drake,
So.
anything to add?
I think a lot of us, and I'll speak for myself specifically, we're a little bit crazy. A little bit OCD, a little lot obsessive. I really have to kind of manage my time. I have a family life, and I have this music life, and I have a business that I run. So I have to balance all of these things together, but I find it's really helpful for me to shelve out time. I have a schedule. If I didn't have a calendar on my phone, my life would be a mess. My life it's a schedule. It's all these blocks of time that are, joined together. So yeah, when I'm not working on music, I'm thinking about music. When I'm in the car and my family go into the store, I'm listening to my mixes and I'm making notes. I'm going back for, when I'm in front of the computer the next time, I'm working on off of the set of notes that I've created. And it's, I have to be careful because it can really become obsessive. Like if I didn't keep my life in check, I could probably just stop doing my business and leave my family, and my life would fall apart. Like it's like it can be like addiction, because it's so rewarding, and it's just, I don't know. It partially maybe it's a part of life where I personally have some measure of control, whereas everywhere else I have no control.
And it's fun because you, in essence, have control over something that we don't really actually have that much control about, and that's what we feel, and that's where the music comes from, right? So yeah. And I agree, it can be like a drug like that.
Yeah, I understand. So I'd like to hear about your, I guess, non-music work, I guess, what you'd call your day job, if if you're comfortable with telling us all about that. So James, I know that you work at the Hawk Express pawn shop.
Nope, change names.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. So
it's now the Hawk Shop.
Yeah, Hawk Shop.
Basic pawn shop.
So Drake, tell us about your business that you're running.
It's not very exciting. I build websites. I design websites. I build websites. I design some more websites. I build. I manage expectations, and collect money from them at the end of the day. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, it is a job that, mind you, would not have existed had the internet not existed. So
exactly.
Another reason to thank the internet for that. So,
I guess, provided we don't, have a cyber war, and that would really suck, or solar flares.
Yeah.
That would really suck.
What's that in the background?
Shit, what are we, yeah, what are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do now that our technology is useless?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
As long as
Move to the
that's when-
forest. Move to the
that's
forest.
when I get solar panels for all my gear, and just make noise, and people have to deal with it.
You might just have to bang on drums and bits of metal, James. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
if the solar
Not like
flare
I don't
thing,
already.
knocks it all out. Yeah, you know, strip naked, grab your drum, you know, run around and scream like a madman, and you know, try and make it sound musical. Yeah, I'm looking
yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah, cut and paste it and loop it a little bit. You can make something of it. I believe it.
That'll be interesting to see what the remix looks like in that type of environment.
Yeah, totally. It would be more improv in that sense. People would truly have to improv. So
yeah, we can get back to you know, true moshing and, you know, tribal.
yeah.
Or tribal.
Yeah, do they even have mosh pits anymore? Are they a thing of the past?
People are too busy holding up their phone.
Oh, right,
to mosh.
right.
We got a digital phone.
Watch it through the screen rather than, you know, what's right in front of your face. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about James. Tell us about running the day-to-day work of running the pawn shop. And I hope I remember her name correctly, but say hi to Eilina, right?
You did it. Way to go. Most people
Eilina.
don't. Good job.
Right. Say hi to Eilina for me, right? She's a great person.
She is.
Yeah. So of course,
Well,
yeah, the pawn shop. I know that two things. It is, of course, filled with musical instruments of various sorts, electronic and otherwise. And two, and I think we've talked about this before, in that there are times when, you know, very suspicious and shady people come in with their stuff and probably stolen. So how do you deal with those?
there's ways we can work around it, and with years of being in the job, you learn to pick up on little telltale signs, like when they bring something up and they don't even know how to pronounce its name or what it does. You know, that's normally a good sign that oh, you just found this somewhere. Okay. Yeah, maybe this isn't yours. And then we explain the legal ramifications of selling us something that isn't theirs. And because we require ID, and they quite often think twice. And the ones that don't only do it once.
Right. So Drake, anything interesting to tell about your day-to-day business web design work?
Built any shady websites?
No, those days are gone. I mean, I've been doing this independently for close to 13 years now. And not that the early days there were any shady websites, but when I was first building my business, I had to, you know, in order to keep a roof over my head and put food into my mouth, I had to pretty much accept projects that came across my desk, because they were few and far between in the beginning. And you know, I did work for some folks that were there to come by my desk today. I would say no, thank you. You know, I've done work for some larger businesses, and no, thank you. I don't work with larger businesses anymore. I'm all about helping the small person. I have a huge network of farmers, believe it or not, and small independents that come to me for web work, and those are the people I want to help. So that's where most of my energy, probably 98% of my energy, is focused today. Is yeah, those people that, in my opinion, are contributing something positive to the world and doing it for themselves and independently. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Right. So going back to music a bit, what is your most memorable live concert where you were, you know, attending? I mean, not performing.
Goodness.
Fishbone.
Mhm.
Richards on Richards in Vancouver on Seymour Street. This would have been, I don't know, 97, 98. I remember being up in the balcony and, being fresh into Vancouver, coming out of Peterborough, Ontario, and being very naive and just, out of my mind that I'm at a concert that, Fishbone's playing. Anyway, I'm up in the balcony and this guy comes out and he's got a cane and a hat. And he's, all sort of pimped out. He's wandering around, and I was like, I think that's Angelo Moore. And I'm watching him, and he goes backstage and he comes back out with some like Rubbermaid totes. He's bringing these Rubbermaid totes out, and he starts setting this stuff up along one of the rails, and he's selling this stuff, and it just looked like things that maybe he pulled out of his sock drawer or something. It was so weird, so bizarre. Anyway, that was that. And, he packed up, put his stuff away, and eventually he comes on stage and like, shit, that was Angelo Moore. Oh my God. And, like the energy that guy has is just phenomenal. Like he would crowd surf from one end of the bar to the other, and people would just, carry him around, and he was just flailing, and, his suspenders falling off. Just, not a care in the world. That's probably one of the more memorable concert moments. I've seen them a few times play over the years because they're so entertaining. And or another time they're playing the small bar in Burnaby, Studebakers. And they came on stage like something like 10:30, and by 2:30 they were still like on stage, and they're like, the management's telling us we have to stop playing. I swear they would have just gone all night long, like endless energy, like no intermissions. No, it's just go. I don't know where those guys get their energy from, but they're older too. They're older dudes. But,
Old guy music. And I personally have no idea how to answer. Many of the shows I went to were influenced by substances that would be incriminating to go into. So I don't know, one that really jumped out was probably getting whiplash at Metallica's And Justice tour. A hard lesson to learn is when you have hair down to your butt, don't be throwing it all night, because when you get up the next day, you're not going to be able to turn your head. But I went to a lot of smaller shows, and I'm just one of those zany people that I end up going and meeting someone from the band or one of the musicians, and I end up talking to them. So every show ends up being memorable. Like I've been to shows of 20 that were just mind blowing. Like saw a band, Black Cloud, out of Winnipeg, and had never seen them before. Saw them at a little pub here in town, and it was mind blowing event. So it's really hard to say which one.
Okay. So
and then there's the old punk shows.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about pits and all that. Nothing's more invigorating than a good pit. Now that I'm too old to be in them.
Right. So tell us about the most memorable show that you did.
That I played?
Yeah, that you were the performer.
Well, I've only really done a small handful of them, and mainly in smaller venues. But one of the fun ones was Dreams of Beans.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was called in at the kind of last minute, and so I went in. I opened, I think, I'm pretty sure. And by the time I was done making my strange noises up at the front, I looked up and the room was full, and that was a pretty fun experience. Because I hadn't told anybody I was playing. I wasn't really anticipating anything, but I was making enough fun noises that the room filled up. So
Nice.
that was worth it.
Drake, any crazy performance concert stories?
Probably the first show that I ever played back in '96 for a band called Brothel. We were an industrial metal band in Vancouver. It was my first show, and I was just, going to go out and destroy, to an audience of 10. It was a Halloween show, and we were opening for Charlie Brown, and I had, I was so inexperienced and had no idea like much of anything. But anyway, I got out there and I took the mic stand, and at one point in the set, I ended up smashing it and twisting it around and smashing in the pumpkins that were lit with my head, and I was just, just covered.
Yeah, like the band.
Just 150%. But anyway, after the show, it's a good thing the guy that owned the microphone, that was doing sound there, didn't stop. But he let me continue. But after the show, he came over and he was going, "You're gonna have to pay for that mic stand." I was like, "Oh fuck, right? That's not my mic stand." So anyway, I ended up buying a new mic stand and giving it to the guy. But I bought 2 mic stands, and for every show after that, I always brought my own mic stand. And every show after that, I continued to break and smash that mic stand. They're cheap and they're fun to smash up. So yeah, that was probably my most fun memory. Making an ass out of myself and going all out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I have not heard your like first records. I'm sure you keep them, and I wonder if you guys listen to them on occasion, and I wonder what do you feel about them?
Our original stuff together?
Yeah, the first records that each of you made, when you decided that, hey, we're gonna record music.
Oh wow! Like if I
like
go
individually?
Yeah.
The early recordings. Where the nightmares come from. On occasion, my very first CD, I didn't have the slightest clue of what I was doing, so I think it's one whole track, so you can't skip from one to the next. Don't even have the old cassette tape feature where you could fast forward and hope catch it. But yeah, on occasion I will still throw it in, and by the time it gets most of the way through, I've heard enough. But and other than that, the stuff Drake and I have done, I have playlists that they are in regularly. So I don't know if that's vanity or just because I really like what we made. So
All right, Drake.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, by the time that I'm done mixing a project, I've listened to that track so many times over and over and over again that I just have to leave it alone for a while. I can go back and listen to like that band I was just describing, Brothel. We recorded 3 songs. Still have those 3 songs. They're on MP3. The disc is long gone, but I enjoy those songs to an extent. Some of the vocals are a little bit hard to. I'm like, oh God, And I produced another CD in 2006 under the name Gore-Tech, and that's particularly painful to listen to for me. There are a couple of tracks in there that I think are really great, but the majority of the album, I'm just like, oh God. And I had like 1,000 copies of them made. I've got them, the jewel case CDs are still in the closet. And I'll hang on to them probably till the day I die. I can. James and I, we continue to press CDs with our releases. It's an old school thing. There are some people still out there listening to CDs. I do run into the occasional person who's like, yeah, cool, I'd like CD, have a CD. But I mean, should technology fail, I might be able to play a CD somewhere on a CD player.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. It's kind of like, for me, it's a souvenir. It's a tangible thing that I can point to and go, we did this.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a part of the art. If it was strictly digital, you put something up on Bandcamp, you put something up over here. What happens when those companies go down? You got a copy on your hard drive. What happens when that flash drive that's engineered to fail in 10 years? Where's your music then? So I feel like I want to invest a little bit more and actually, continue to press discs, as there are fewer and fewer manufacturers out there to go to and actually have that. But
Yeah,
like to do some vinyl in the near future.
same here. Yeah,
Yeah, I look forward to that. Very excited.
we'll have to work towards getting our own vinyl press.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there's an idea.
Yeah, they're not super expensive.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, no one's brought one into work yet, but the day could come.
Let me know, James.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll look forward to when the vinyl comes out. So tell us about the remix album of Sinister.
it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. Like Drake was mentioning earlier, but some of the great artists that we know, the remixes that those guys did for us are, well, and Drake himself did a masterful job there with that Spank mashup. So I'm super excited about it. I play tracks off of it for people all the time and include it in my DJ tracks off it in my DJ set. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wrong
creating
word.
that mashup was a weird experience. I've never done a mashup before. You hear about these mashups, you listen to them, you're like, oh, James, you want me to do a Spank the Nun mashup? Like, okay, let's go. Let's give this a go. But I've heard some artists express that they're not really into remixes and having remix albums. I personally, and it's probably the 90s roots and really enjoying all of those remix, some great, some not so great. But for me personally, it's really, really interesting to hear another artist's take on your track and to
Exactly.
to share those bits with them too. Carl Learmont from Angel Spit, we were talking about it one day, and he said it was just like letting someone look up your skirt, because you're giving them like all of the rawness, all of the it's kind of like revealing looking up the skirt.
Yeah.
I think we killed ourselves laughing. Like it's a lot like that. So yeah, we let some people look up her skirt, and we got to see how they interpreted what we had done. And the result is always it's interesting, and we're fortunate to have been able to collaborate in that way with the artists that we have.
Yeah. Awesome musicians that you should all check out.
Yeah, 100%.
So have you guys performed any new songs of the new album yet, Sinister?
We haven't been able to perform yet because of geography, lack of transporters.
Unless you include like lucid dreaming, connection.
Yeah.
Experiences where, that stadium last week, James.
Yeah,
that was rad. We killed it, dude.
Yeah, it was. See the crowds? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really cool to do something remotely like that. I don't know how you would, get past the latency issues.
Yeah, the
It
closest
could be a really terrible show.
like Live Evil's offered to try to fill in for Drake in a sense by playing all the backing tracks and have me up there with a mic, but even then I'm not sure how that would work. I guess it's something that we'd have to play with, but someday.
Yeah. So as an aside, I think of we're still talking about live concerts here. Would you consider going to a Stones concert, Rolling Stones concert now? Like of all the bands in the 60s, I think they're still the ones like still kicking it. Like you can have the privilege of seeing Jagger and Richards performing Satisfaction for the 51 millionth time while they are, should be in like nursing homes.
All the power in the world to them for still being able to keep going, but can't say as I would go.
Mhm.
I've heard it enough times, I think, in my lifetime that I'll give my ears to other people's music for a while.
Mm-hmm. Drake?
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. Yeah, all power to them kind of thing. But yeah, never been a huge fan, and it was part of the classic rock that I grew up listening to, and I've heard so many times. It's just not something I put on for enjoyment.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sure if you. I think you guys are fans of rock music, and I wonder if you can comment on the state of rock music today from two people who do not play rock.
It's
music
dead.
at all. Okay.
Rock is dead.
I was going to say, does it still exist? Who are today's rock artists? Other than that's, in my opinion, the reason why we're seeing so many nostalgic acts and so many cover bands filling stadiums is because, there isn't any really new rock, like classic format rock coming out these days that I'm hearing anyways. If there is, they're not getting the airwaves. They're not getting the play. So
yeah, there's probably tons and tons of small independent bands that you'll never hear of that are rocking it, in the rock vein. But in mainstream wise, with the corporate stranglehold that is, I think it's essentially dead.
Yeah, too many classic acts like from the 90s and early 2000s that are still going, that are still filling stadiums. That how can some of these newer up and coming acts, unless they come up with something really exceptional, like the last ones I can think of that really stood out, the White Stripes, when they first started appearing, they were really making some waves. The ones that sound like Zeppelin, I should know their name, but I've heard some of their stuff. It's unique, but with that classic sound. But again, it's that classic sound having to be recycled in order to get the listeners. So rockers need to be more experimental.
Oh yeah.
Maybe get some of that prog out of the old back of the closet there and bring that back out. So
right. Yeah, I know that. I think they have to compete also with other popular music genres that's going on right now. R&B and hip hop and every sort of electronic music, even what you guys are doing.
Well, that's the thing. Nowadays, the audience seems to be looking for something new. So much of what has been played on the radio is so formulaic over the last, I'd say, 6 or 7 years, that listeners are getting tired of what they're hearing. Like I'm hearing more Prince now than I've ever heard in my life on the radio. So, and that's on Freak and the ones that are supposed to be the hot new radio stations. So the fact that they're turning to this Purple Majesty in order to keep people listening, says a lot. So
Drake, anything to add?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm a bit dismayed at a lot of the music that I hear today. It's a lot of recycle. It's a lot of same, and I don't know. If it's possible to be that original at this point in history, with so much that's been done.
That's a very good point.
What original new direction is there? I'm not sure. When I create music, I'm trying to just kind of channel something from outside of myself, and maybe that'll be, something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's sanity, as human beings being creative, we have to create, and just it is what it is, and if it's not original, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it, just have to keep creating. Otherwise, I don't know. I'll end up back there somewhere. I'm trying to point back here. I'll disappear into the Borealis. Never to be found. I'll go seeking the the center
solar
of it,
flare.
it leads to the hollow earth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Join the Atlanteans.
Of course,
Yeah, and personally, I find when I'm creating, if I start falling into something that sounds too much like something that I've already heard or that I already know, I automatically have to stop myself to try to go somewhere else. You know, and quite often I'll even pick a whole new different batch of sounds just to
It's so hard though, right? Too, because I was just working on a collaboration with a friend. It's going to be on Metaversus. It kind of came up spontaneously, but I wrote this melody, and I was listening to it in the car the other day. I'm like, well, where did that melody come from? And it was just like, it just seemed like it should go here, and it should go here and go here. And I'm going, what if I'm pulling that from somewhere and I'm totally plagiarizing, right?
That's my fear.
I'll spend a couple of days racking my brain, right? And wasn't it it might have been Mick Jagger, or was David Bowie or something. It was
I know that there was that band, there was that band, The Verve, right? With that famous song that they alleged to have been, I guess, stolen or inspired by Jagger and Richards, right?
Well, it was one of these artists that was being accused of it, and their response was, there's only so many combinations that you can mix up the notes into, and then you have to start, I mean, that's a gross simplification. There's duration, there's pauses, there's all of that other stuff that
attack, nuance. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you write something and I'm like, is it original? I don't know. Somebody might come along in a year and go, what were you doing? It's that. And I'm like, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, exactly.
That's as honest as I can be,
But that one track that we did that has some guitar on it, I remember I was telling Drake that I hadn't used it because every time I heard it, it made me think of something else. I just couldn't put my finger on what I was hearing. So I was so worried that I was plagiarizing that, nope, this track's just going to sit there. And now that I hear it mixed in with stuff, I know what I thought I was hearing. It isn't that, but yeah, I totally get that. And I've sat on pieces for extremely long time just because, it sounds too much like something else. And until I can put my finger on it, I'm not going to do something with it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time or patience for being in a courtroom.
Yeah. So final question, since we're wrapping things up now. What does music mean to you?
Life.
Mm-hmm.
Sanity.
Yeah.
All right. One word answers. I like that a lot. So Drake Moore and James Seaborn of 40 Octaves Below, James Ghost, and of course, Mesmer's Ghost. Thank you guys so much for being on this program. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad that we've had this little virtual gathering. I wish you all well in your music as well as non-musical endeavors, and I'll see you guys when we meet soon enough, I hope.
Thanks for having us.
Chung. Yeah, thank you.